I today wanted to talk to you a little bit about the community that I come from, the community that is known in Israel as Arab citizens of Israel, our community which is 21% of Israel's population today. And we'll dive in more about identity and what is this term of Arab citizens of Israel. But for the beginning, we're talking about a community that as a whole is 21% of Israel's population, which means every fifth person you meet in Israel is an Arab speaker. And we're 21% of the population, but 25% of the doctors. And we are roughly 30% of the nurses. And believe it or not, we're 49% of the pharmacists. We're half the pharmacists in Israel. And if I'm not mistaken, the other half are Russian speakers. It's either Arabs or Russian speakers. Am I the only one who only meets our communities in the pharmacies?
I never met Russian speaking in pharmacy.
Really? You only meet the Arabs?
Yes, Arabs a lot. No Russian speaking.
But it's because, at least the way I think about it is because that we are two communities that thrive on education, thrive on medical education in particular, and pharmacy is also something that, it's not the 7-8 years in medical school, but you're still in the medical system, and we're two communities that thrive on education, particularly at those kind of fields, which is great. I'm not so sure about the percentage of Russian doctors in Israel, or Russian-speaking doctors in Israel, I should say, but it's something interesting to look up. But for the Arab community, I know that it's today 25% of the doctors. So we are a part of the country, part of the workforce of the country, and excel in certain fields, but unfortunately also are very underrepresented in others at the moment. We're only under 5% of high-tech, which is the flagship of the country, the leading field of the state is high-tech, and we're less than 5%. Even in the media, I've recently met with someone from the media in Israel, and they gave me a new stat that's coming out now from the Arab workers in the media, that it used to be 17% of the media was from the Arab community, and now it's 5%. There's a lot more silencing and elimination of Arab voices within the mainstream media in Israel as well. So we're a community that has a lot of complexities. Our reality as Israeli citizens is a complex one, because at the end of the day, we have two elements that kind of tug on us in terms of who we are and our reality and where we come from, which is kind of a question that lingers above your head, that we feel that it's not that we ask it, we're being asked. What are you? Are you Israeli or are you Palestinian? And it's a question that somebody who doesn't know our reality might ask, why do you guys have anything to do with the Palestinian identity as Israeli citizens? Israel labels us as Arab citizens of Israel or Israeli Arabs. Which is the common term to phrase us, which eliminates this Palestinian part. So the Israeli society asks us, why are you connected to the Palestinian people in the first place? So I'm going to delve into that, but I think before we do that, if I want to label the reality of what it is to be an Arab citizen in Israel, I think I can do it in one story that talks about 1 week, which I think sums up what it is to be an Arab in this country. And this is actually the week of October 7th. I think that week sums up our reality. On a personal note, October 7th for me started in the north. It started at my family home. The night before we had a wedding, which shows you the reality that we live in, where we have a wedding the night before, and then the next morning is October 7th. And I woke up to a message from my roommate. It was a new roommate, a Jewish roommate. I was living in Herzliya at the time. And this guy I met literally a month before he signed a contract. We got along, so he moved in. And I woke up to a message from him, 9 o'clock, because we didn't have sirens of the 6 a.m. and 6:30 of the center and the south. And he asked me, hey, can you translate this video for me? That was the only thing I saw. the first thing that popped into my head was, okay, now he has an Arab roommate. I'm sure he found some funny video on Instagram and he wants me to translate it to Hebrew. That now he has a personal translator for funny videos from Arabic. That was my first perception. And it also kind of connects to our reality, because the reality here is that Arab citizens, we have Hebrew as mandatory in our education system. The education system in Israel is a separate one. We have a Jewish education system that it's also separate, which is, I'm not going to get into that. That's other people's problem of how divided the Jewish education system is. I know we talked about it for like a brief second with Limudei Liba, which is, it's the hot topic, the core subjects, whether or not everybody should learn them or not in the religious community. That's a different question. But for our community, we have a different education system, and it's in Arabic. And Hebrew is a mandatory language in our education system. From first grade to 12th grade, you learn every year. You learn Hebrew every single year, and it's systematic. So we end up knowing Hebrew on one level or another. And then if you go to university here, definitely when you enter the workforce, your Hebrew becomes stronger and better because you have to use it, you have to improve it in order to also figure yourself out. And it depends on how much you interact with the Jewish community that your Hebrew kind of improves or doesn't. With the Jewish community, it's not the case. The vast majority of Jewish Israelis do not speak Arabic. It's not mandatory the way it is for us for 12 years. Even when it is mandatory for some schools, it's for a couple years. There's a massive gap between us in terms of the languages. So I woke up to this message, and then I saw that it was actually with the video of Hamas taking over the IDF tank, and they taking out the soldiers from inside. And at this moment, when I saw this, I was, okay, does not look fake. And I remember like exiting out of the video and going in like, is this real? Like, can this be actually what's a real video? Like, what the hell is going on? And then you're getting more and more updates. And then I realized there's the Nova party. And then I'm getting floods of messages myself from my friends, Arabs and Jewish alike. Where are you? Bless you. Where are you? Are you okay? Were you in the party? Do you have friends who were in the party? And I'm asking my friends the same question, and we're all trying to understand what's happening to each other. By midday, I realized I had 4 friends with 6 family members who were missing. And as someone who's an activist, or someone who works for peace or believes in peace, at this point, and you feel that you feel helpless, you feel hopeless, and you don't know what the hell am I supposed to do in this kind of a moment. And my decision was, let me try to help my friends. That's the bare minimum I can do. So I told them, send me their photos. I put them on my laptop. I had my phone. I went on Telegram, and I went to Telegram groups and used keywords that maybe they wouldn't know in Arabic, and trying to find some groups in Arabic to find my friends' family members. And unfortunately, I was unsuccessful, and even more so that all 6 were found eventually killed. So for me, that was October 7th. It was a day of mutual panic. It was a day of mutual fear that we're all in this together in this day. That I have friends who work in the south, who are in the Soroka hospital, who were working tirelessly and nights on end since October 7th and treating the wounded. Later on, I realized that a good friend of mine, Mohammed Darawshi, who is the head of an organization called Givat Chaviva in the north, which has intensive courses that connect between Jewish and Arab youth. And it does also language education for both communities together. His nephew was killed on October 7th. And he was a paramedic at the Nova party. Awad Darawshi, and he refused to leave. He refused to evacuate. He refused to run away, and he thought that maybe because I'm an Arab, I'm a Muslim, my family is from a Palestinian background, and we'll talk about that in a second. What does it mean, at least for us as a community? Now maybe I'll be okay. No, I understand where he's coming from. People are ringing for too much. But yeah, it was, a very painful moment when I learned that about Muhammad's nephew. And, I think there was a frustration right after October 7th that there's a question that lingers, over our heads from the Jewish Israeli society of why don't we integrate enough? There's always that question about integration. And there's, in my feeling, it's an attempt to not integration but assimilation. To become like somebody else instead of integrating to the society and bringing my own unique self. And I don't think that's something that's unique to us. I think this has happened in this country before. This is not new to the Arab society. We've seen it for the Mizrahi Jewish community as well. 2 generations back, people spoke from the Mizrahi community with their accent, with the R's and the Ha and the Ain, and now it's gone because of assimilation, not integration. That you need to sound like what the new Jewish person is, which is Ashkenazi Jews.
We're still learning how to say
So, these things are not unique, and unfortunately, this is the perception that we feel. And then, a few days after October 7th, you hear the news, and you hear the rhetoric on the news, that, the slogan of, together we will win, ביחד ננצח, كلנו يهودين. We're all Jews. We're not Israelis. We're Jews. So the question that you can ask the Israeli society is, when push comes to shove, if to be an Israeli is to be Jewish, what the hell do you want from me? Why do you ask me to integrate? You don't want me. For you, Israeli is Jewish at the end of the day. When it comes to the moment, to the heart of the matter, you're not showing me that Israeli is everyone. You're telling me that Israeli is Jewish. So how do you want me to be part of? Just to smile on the side, or do you want me to be an actual integral part? And it doesn't work like that. And this is the reality that we're facing. And I think that was a huge mistake by the state, the way that this media has talked about it, because we felt targeted on that day too. When someone from a Bedouin community, a mother of, I think, 7 children, was killed while driving with her husband in the south by Hamas, she didn't look Jewish. She didn't look European, or she didn't look American. She looked Muslim with hijab, visibly Muslim, and she was killed. The same thing happened to a bus driver from East Jerusalem, who was also killed by Hamas. So we felt that. But then, to understand that a day after that, October 8th, the first thing I decided to do was to drive from the north to Jerusalem, because my sister lives in West Jerusalem, pick her up, drive to Herzliya, take my stuff, and my friends who were living in Herzliya had no ride. I picked them up, and we drove back to the north. And think about it, October 8th, Hamas is still in the Gaza envelope. No one knew where they will be in 5 hours, if they will breach further. But I thought that it was safer to drive, to pick up my sister, to pick up my friends, and to drive back to the north than to leave them there. I was afraid. And I was afraid of my own Jewish friends, Jewish neighbors. I didn't think that it was safe that I will be staying in Herzliya after that. That maybe if I'm walking down the street and somebody hears me on the phone speaking in Arabic, they will be triggered. And I don't want to be the target of that. And believe me, I don't blame them. I don't. I could meet somebody 2 days after their brother was killed, their nephew, their parents, and their anger, their frustration is completely legitimate. But I didn't want it to turn into vengeance against me. So I wanted to protect myself. Or that somebody down the street will just hear me and just be triggered, even yet, no direct person who was killed on October 7th, but still, you feel it's part of your people, you're hurt. And I don't want to be the target of that. And a lot of people felt the same way from our community who live in the center, who moved to the north and the triangle area, the Mishulash, in order to stay in all Arab towns. That was a real fear that we had. And then a day after that, 2 days after that, I'm calling friends in Gaza. I have friends that I've made throughout the years, throughout different programs that I've made, people from different backgrounds and came from different educations, and they've gone to excellency, and they've gone to, some of them went to the US and studied abroad, and some of them came up with incredible startups that helped the Gazan society, and try to understand if they're okay. And then understanding that actually a couple of our friends who still have family there can't leave, and some of them are stuck. And one of them had a family member who was wounded while going down to the south when they opened the corridor to the south at the beginning. And trying to understand, how can I help my friends there now? So we started to call embassies across from the different embassies that are in Israel, and try to connect to them and try to understand, how can we get people outside? How can we help people from our family friends who were injured to get out and receive medical treatment? Some of them needed immediate medical care. And to sum up, an Arab citizen is the only one who really have these 3 layers of emotion at the same time in 1 week. That in one day, we're in the same pain with everyone, we're in the same fear, in the same panic, and the same feeling that we might be in a, I think I'm not the only one who woke up on that day and thought, is this doomsday for Israelis and Palestinians? Is this the beginning of the end? There's a real fear that it's across everyone. A day after that, you're worried about your own neighbors who you were afraid with the day before. And then a couple of days after that, you're worried about the people who are across the border, who are in fight with your own country. And all these layers together is unique to us. It's unique to our community, that we can hold all these things together. And the reason for it is because I think it's important to underline what is this connection of our identity between Israeli and Palestinian. Because for us, Arab citizens of Israel represents everyone. Everyone is an Arab citizen of Israel from our community. Within that, we have two polarized sides on the spectrum. On the one hand, we have someone who sees himself as only Israeli. I'm an Arab Israeli or Israeli Arab, how the state defines it. No connection to Palestinian identity. Perhaps because our community doesn't have conscription, decide to do conscription. And the Druze community are somewhat within that category, but still not all as well. Because they're also Arab speaking, but there's a whole other question about the Druze community. So I'm excluding that outside of the Arab society, which is primarily, we're talking about the Muslims and the Christians. And it also a bit excludes the Bedouin community, because the Bedouin community, culturally speaking, are nomadic by heritage. And their perception of land is different than people who look for national identities. But for the rest, which is roughly now we're talking about 17% out of this 21%, we're talking about a community that is, the vast majority is stuck between these two identities, with a minority that sees itself as only Israeli, and a minority that sees itself as only Palestinian, but the majority of us are on the spectrum between the two, where you have elements of both two things in the same time. Because essentially, we're part of two things. For the majority of us, we're part of the Palestinian people as a peoplehood, and part of the Israeli society. We're part of the Palestinian people in terms of culture, norms, heritage, history, background, language, and we're part of the Israeli society in the sense that we're not just de facto citizens. As I mentioned, we are part of the Israeli workforce. We're a very important part of the Israeli workforce. And we're not just living separate lives. Even when we live in separate towns and we don't even integrate that much together, and I don't think we integrate to each other, not from one side, but to each other enough. We don't meet each other enough. The majority of Arab and Jewish kids don't meet. We meet actually after high school for the vast majority, because our schools are separate. So you get to meet the politics before the people, which is the biggest mistake that we have here. Instead of having children meet in a young age, and it breaks stereotypes. But even with that, we've been able to mix into this culture that created this hub of culture that's called the Israeli culture, and part of the Israeli society today. So in general, we're all late. Has nothing to do with Arab and Jews. And everybody honks, and everybody's awful at driving at the street, and very, harsh in the driving, and we can be loud sometimes, and that's across the board. And we also mix each other's languages. Some of the most popular words in the Israeli culture today are Arabic words. Yalla, Arabic word. And I don't think everybody knows what yalla actually means.
What does it mean?
Yalla is an abbreviation of two words. Ya, Allah. So ya means oh, and Allah means God. So, oh God, it means God take me. It means let's go.
Ah, so it's
Uh,
this,
Sabah.
It's like, oh my god.
It's like
It's not like, oh my God, it's like, oh God, as in, yalla is more let's go, like God carry me.
But even in English, that I heard from the local person, Yala, maybe he's talking like that with me because I'm from Israel, but I don't know.
No, now it has more meanings. Yalla, let's go, as in, the main translation has expanded into not just let's go, but it's going to also, come on, let's go, and like it can just mean different tonations of let's go.
So it's not like a mother who found her children messing in her room and like, Ya Allah. It's not like a
No, Ya Allah is, oh my God. Yalla is, oh God.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference.
Now I see what you meant by the question. Yes, it's Yalla and Ya Allah.
So Ya Allah is a sad expression and Yalla is like, let's go.
It can be positive sometimes, Ya Allah. It can. I need to think about it.
Okay.
Because now my mind is on the English version. So it's going to need to switch back and forth. But also, Dugri. We hear Israelis say, speak Dugri. It's an Arabic word. Dugri means Dugri with a G,
what's that?
which is in Arabic it's Dugri. But because Hebrew speakers can't pronounce it like that, because they have the Ra, they do it Ra, and then it's just a whole mess. So they say Dugri.
What does it mean?
Straight, direct. Speak directly, walk straight, Dugri.
My favorite word is hopper. Really
Huh?
like it.
Khaper.
My favorite one.
Like there's so many words that also have like this kind of a word that mix between Arabic and Hebrew somewhat. There's a lot of mixes, and by the way, we do the same thing. We abandoned the word tamam, kinda. Everybody in Arabic, instead of saying tamam, we say beseda. Like this has for us we say tamam all the time. This is our word for okay. We don't say it. We say beseda. Remote control, we say shalat. We don't say the word in Arabic anymore. Mazgan, we say mazgan. We don't say AC in Arabic. And sometimes people who don't say it in Arabic say it in Hebrew, they say it in English. It's just no one uses the Arabic word. And we somehow use Hebrew instead. And our languages really mixed together, and our societies have mixed. So we're not separate from one another. But our reality is one that has both of these things at the same time. My grandma is someone who was born in Bethlehem and grew up in Ramallah until the age of 7. If her family would have stayed there, today we're Palestinians in the West Bank. They started moving in 1948 towards Lebanon. They didn't end in Lebanon, but if they did, today we're Palestinians, refugees in Lebanon. And we have family members who moved and went towards Jordan. And my grandfather, from my dad's side, also went to Jordan. And if he stayed there, we would have been Palestinians in Jordan. But for us, our citizenship as Israeli citizens was determined by where our grandparents ended up. If they were here, they were they became Israeli citizens. If they were here, they were Palestinians in the West Banks. If they ended up here, they're in Gaza. If they're here, they're in refugees in Lebanon or in Syria or in Jordan or in Egypt. So it was really fate. But we're part of the same story. It just depends on what happens to your parents. That determined it. The problem in Israel and why the identity is not recognized like that is that the term Palestinian in Israel is perceived as a political term. If somebody says they're Palestinian, it means necessarily that they don't believe in the existence of the state of Israel and that everything here is Palestine and it needs to be Palestine and Israel needs to be wiped off the map. That's the perception. This is not the case. The Palestinian identity as an identity of a peoplehood has different elements, like any peoplehood. And peoplehoods have elements that create peoplehood, which is common shared history, background, language, heritage, culture, norms, religions. Sometimes it's more than one, and aspiration for national independence and self-determination. And the reason why I say aspirations is because the first thing that Israelis tell me, there was never a state called Palestine, so you can't be a people. Newsflash, Jews were a people before they created a state. When did the Jewish people become a people? Anyone knows? Sinai. And it was before they arrived at the land. You know, people tell me, how are you a people? Show me the first coin and show me the first coin is a very common term to ask for us because there were, coins in the state of Israel at the time. Show me your coins. Who were your kings? Because there were kings in the kingdom of Israel. So we have to be the same in order to apply. But the Jewish people have become a people, v'niyetem le'am, b'ma'amad Sinai. And the Sinai at Mount Sinai, at the mount in Sinai.
Like there's a difference between religion, like it's a mix of religion.
Yeah, but as a peoplehood, the creation of the Jews as a peoplehood.
But what do you mean by peoplehood? Like
So, a peoplehood is a people that different things connect between them. History, the Jewish people were together in Egypt as slaves. Language, culture, norms, and what defines them to become a people and what sticks you to the idea of a people is that you collect all these things with people who have the same thing like you, and you decide to create your own thing, to have your own self-determination, your own self-governance. When the Jewish people did that in Mount Sinai, moving to the land, that's what made them a people. And they were in the desert for 40 years. It doesn't make them less than a people. Because within these 40 years, they continued to walk towards achieving the self-determination and reaching a land where they will have their own independence and live their own lives independently.
what's the difference between that and the nation? Because in Hebrew you used am, which is the nation.
So a nation state is also a new idea that connects between a nation and a state, but as an as a people, it connects between a nation and a national identity and a people identity that today most people aspire to be a nation as well. So you become a nation state. A nation state is a nation based off of a people that want to have their own state, which is what the majority of the world today is functioning on. So with the Palestinians, it's the same thing. It's a people that want to create a state on national elements that have the same people who are self-governing, if that makes sense. It does not.
No.
It does or not? Okay. Because it doesn't, I can explain, it's fine.
No, I just wanted to understand what do you mean by
But the idea of what creates people and what creates a group that wants to create a state is something that is common across the world. Something that definitely became somewhat of an idea that crossed across the world between World War I and World War II, where different groups created different states and new states have emerged. all across the world, including definitely in the Middle East. And the people here were the same. The idea of Palestinian national identity was something that started in the 1920s. And it never reached a statehood, but the idea remained. So the people who were around this idea of self-determination maintained this glue of these people connecting on the idea of self-determination. So that's what creates them as a people in the national sense. The difference is that what is this self-determination can be different, because these people who are from the same culture, heritage, background as we are, we have different opinions. As any people do, we are pluralistic. We're not all the same people. We don't think all the same. Some people define themselves as Palestinian, and yes, they say, I want everything here to be Palestine. Other people say, I'm Palestinian and I want a binational state, one state with two national identities, Israeli and Palestinian together in one state. Other Palestinians say, I believe in a country for all its citizens. Let's eliminate national identities. We don't want to be labeled as Israelis and Palestinians. We can just, create something new. Maybe we can call it Israelstein, and we can live in a democratic country for all. So that's another people. Others think that we should have two states, Israel and Palestine, that we have two people, two sets of groups that want self-determination, so both people should get it. The other people say, no, we should have confederacy, where we have two states, or a state in the north and in the south, multiple states under one national government. There are multiple ideas, and Palestinians are diverse and pluralistic, and people have different views on what's this self-determination should look like. And within that, Palestinians can discuss, and it's okay for us that we're discussing these things. But it's not how it's perceived in Israel. It's perceived as one political identity, and a very specific one. And that's our challenge, to change this rhetoric, that we are this one viewpoint, this one way of life. Within this reality, this creates a challenge for us to be Israeli citizens. As I said, there's the questions about how much are we Israeli, how much are we Palestinian, questions of our involvement in the state, integration versus assimilation. But in our reality today, to sum up who we are and what we are facing, we're facing three big issues. One is the issue that's common for everyone, the issue of this war. Whatever you think about it, no one can be happy about war, whatever side you're on in this war. Because even if you're on the side that supports this war, people are losing their life also on your side every day. We're seeing the state reported 57 people who committed suicide from soldiers. That number can dangerously increase. And we're talking about these 18 to 22-year-old kids who are being sent to their death or to kill. So even if you're pro this war, this is not a reality that you should be happy about. I don't think it's something that people are happy, and I hope not. So that's something that's common to us. And there are two issues that are very specific to our community. One is the issue of crime. What's been happening in the state of Israel in the last 10 years is an increase in organized crime in the Arab sector. Large gangs and mobs who are taking protection money, committing murders on left and right, threats, frauds. And one of the main reasons for their increase in strength in the last 10 years is that in 2015, there was a bill that was proposed by the government to increase the budgets for the Arab municipalities. And the reason for it, because there was a massive gap between our communities and the Jewish communities. To fill the gap, there was a program to increase the funding, but there was no real supervision. The mobs were already there, but then they capitalized on the money that was coming in. They took control of the budgets, they took control of money, and then with COVID hitting in 2021, there was another source of income. People couldn't take loans from the banks. There was a challenge for the Arab sector to take loans from banks, so people went towards the black market. to get loans. And who collects the money for the black market for loans? Mobs. So their work even increased even more. So that's something that we're seeing expanding in the last 10 years, and we need some to be addressed. 10 years ago, the difference between, or 15 years ago, I should say, the rate of murders within the state of Israel was 4-1 from the Arab community to the Jewish community. Today, it's 16-1. It's 4 times as much in the last 15 years. This is what's happening recently, and there needs to be addressed. And the last thing is expansion of our towns. There's not enough expansion. We don't see new Arab towns. I want to see a new Arab town. Just like there are Jewish towns that are completely secular, kibbutzim, and one that it's for Zionist religions, and you can't drive on Shabbat, and in other ones you can, and everyone does the community the way they want. Wallah, I want the community the way I want. I want an Arab liberal community. What's the problem? We can evolve a new liberal culture within our community, but we can't do it within the existing towns. And I'll take your question. We can't take it within the existing towns. The village that we come from will not open a bar. They will not allow a bar. Just like a religious Zionist mushav will not allow you to drive on Shabbat. And it's not going to change. And nobody's going to force them to change, so why force us? So let me open a new town where I can do that. Where the new generation can create something new. But we're not getting that. We're barely getting expansions in the existing towns. And to see how bad the situation is, you don't even need to look at us. You can look at the Druze community. You can say the Arab citizens, they're not in the army, they don't serve, blah, blah, blah. Look at the Druze community. They're serving, they're there, they're getting killed, and they're getting tzav shmone, being asked to serve on one hand, and on the other hand, they're also getting tzav harisa, which is destruction bill. Thank you. Demolition document, because they are also building illegally. And it's not because they want to. It's because they have nowhere to go. It's because the Druze communities are not being expanded beyond that. And they're being forced to build illegally, and they're getting demolition documents and a fine of hundreds of thousands of shekel in one hand while they're being asked to serve the state. That's the reality. And these things need to change if we want to actually look at a reality where we are all equal citizens. And the question equal, I think, has become the most clear for us in this war. Are we equal? And the question is really a real one. Because when you see that the treatment of citizens is not equal in times of war, you start to question it. When an Arab person says something on social media, they might get a knock on their door. And it happened. And let me be clear. If somebody does say something to incite, to post for hate and things like that, if the law says they should be investigated and arrested, I'm all for it. As long as it's done for everyone. The reality is, it's not. There hasn't been a single case that I saw of a Jewish person getting arrested by the police for sending insightful messages on social media since October 2023. We're almost 2 years. Do you want to tell me that not a single Jewish guy or girl in Israel has said something to incite against Arabs? Really? It happened. And it happened in one case in Tamra, which is right next to my town, when in the war with Iran, the rocket fell and we felt the rockets shake the entire area. And we saw, and you might have seen the video of the young group of guys who were videotaping the rockets and hoping that the rockets don't fall on them. They saw that it was going to Tamra. They started to chant, "May your village burn." In another case, and they didn't get arrested. In another case, there was, in my town, inside my town, a rocket from Hezbollah at the beginning of the war in Shfamir, killing a teacher. And people posted on social media with their names, with their photos, and they're writing, and one less terrorist is down. A mother of terrorists is killed, we're happy, let's celebrate. Some crazy things. Not a single person was arrested. So if we are equal citizens, show me that we're equal citizens. And when push comes to shove, we're looked as a potential threat. This is how the state looks at us. We are a threat at potential. You're guilty until you prove otherwise. Sort of the opposite. And that's painful to feel as a citizen. It is. Because we want to see a better reality. I believe in a better reality. I believe in a future where we can move past this. We're not necessarily doomed forever and ever to be at war. If other countries around the world have able to move beyond conflict, I'm sorry, with all due respect, they're not better than we are. We look at Europe and how they're looking at us and categorizing us and sometimes even some stigmas on us. Guys, Europe has known the most wars and killing in human history. Way more than we did. They were killing each other for hundreds of years. The fact that they stopped, why? They're able to stop. Why can't we? Yes, we can. We can also stop. They're not better than we are. The fact that this happens in Northern Ireland, and in Northern Ireland people were sure that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will end before the troubles in Northern Ireland, we can also change it. I'll end you with one thought. There's a theory that says in 5 years you can have a peace from the worst of time. It's a political theory. Within 5 years. And it's not hypothetical. It exists in the Israeli history. No one in the state of Israel in 74, at the end of the Yom Kippur War, thought that there will be a peace with Egypt in 5 years. Egypt was the biggest enemy of the state of Israel, way more than anyone else. It was believed to be the one that will be able to wipe out Israel. It was the biggest threat. 5 years after that, Sadat arrives in Jerusalem and they sign a peace treaty. In the first Intifada in 87, no one believed that there will be any conversations between the Israelis and Palestinians. 5 years later, Oslo conversations begin. A year after that, we signed the first part of Oslo in 93. And a year after that, in 94, we signed a peace treaty with the state of Jordan. The second Intifada starts in 2000 and ends in 2003. 5 years after that, we have the Annapolis Conference between the Prime Minister at the time, Ehud Olmert, and Mahmoud Abbas. We had this 5-year cycle. Even actually, there's one more I just thought about. Even after the murder of Yitzhak Rabin in 95, we had Camp David in 2000. There is a cycle of this 5-year. We're in 2025. No one can say that it's not possible that we end this war in this goddamn year and we have peace in 5 years. It's not impossible. I'm a believer. So hopefully I'll leave you with this thought.